Hello. How is everyone doing today? Should we bring Kevin up on stage? Okay, there you go.
Hey, what's up, David? Hi, Mad Hatter. How you guys doing?
How you doing?
It's good. I won't lie, I have been waiting for this and dreading this. This particular AMA has been long requested, but for both good and bad reasons, because, lots of questions, lots of things I need to talk about, and you guys want to obviously ask me about, a lot of stuff, so.
It'll be exciting.
I already gave you a little sneak peek of a question today, and you ignored my message.
Oh, what? You sent me a message? Wait,
no, it's in our global chat. In our global chat, I said, I look forward to the conversation, especially from you guys. And I said, prepare for questions like when Lambo. That's what.
Oh, that.
You apparently didn't prepare.
Yes,
That's bad.
Yes, that is bad. I did not see that.
Hi, Smiley.
A
lot of people come trickling in.
Oh, yeah. I guess when you say there's going to be over $100 of prizes, people tend to come.
People get interested.
Yes, they do. Oh, thank you, Sully, Zaki. Appreciate that. Wow, actually pretty decent turnout so far. That's crazy. 28. Damn.
And we haven't even started yet.
I know. It's only a minute past 5. That's crazy.
Be back in 2 minutes.
Okay, then I'm gonna wait for you before we get this started. How you feeling, Kevin? Everything fine?
Oh, everything's perfectly fine. Is my audio okay? You guys can hear me all right?
Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine.
That's fantastic. So in the meantime, did you and Mad Hatter get a chance to go through our white paper and our project? I know you guys said you were gonna do a deep dive as you usually do with each project.
No, we just winging it today. So no, of course, we checked.
I love the sense. I love the sense.
We also checked through the Discord and did everything that is available to us. As you know, like we like to take it from the like to take an approach like we would be an investor. So it's like we just use the information that we have out there. So that's why we also that might have surprised you, why we have not asked you, like, can you explain this to us or this to us? We just like to take it from a perspective. Okay, you're an investor. These are the informations that you have out there. I mean, of course, an investor could also ask in the Discord, but I think it's quite interesting.
I know.
We want to take it from the perspective of a shy investor, right? Like that.
Yeah. I know Mad Hatter. I know Mad Hatter has said that he also likes things to be authentic, right? He doesn't want to ask a question in private only to ask it again because now it's not authentic on stream. So, so I get it. You guys, if you guys want to make sure that when you ask me something, I'm seeing it for the first time for not only the audience, but for you guys and, all that.
Yeah, a genuine reaction, right? And
absolutely.
And maybe, I mean, we never want to get an gotcha moment, but we love to hear like from time to time. Oh, that's a good question. So we don't want to prepare you too much, right? But Mad Hatter, are you back? Should we get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty. Thank you all for coming today. Welcome to The Pillars. We are a community-led space aimed at supporting protocols and educating our investors through intelligent, meaningful conversation. Here we ask the tough questions you all want answered. Now let me introduce to you, as you can see, Kevin White from the PTC Token. I'm going to share the link shortly in a second when I'm off the stage, so you can check it out. The stage question is open for everyone to ask questions for people that all have some burning questions for Mr. Kevin. And yeah, I mean, PTC is a reflection-based token how reflections are working. I'm not going to go into that too much. So if you have some questions towards that, you can ask them, of course, into the Stage Questions channel, or just ping me and then I can explain it to you. But it is an interesting ecosystem that you're building out. And what I very much liked reading in your white paper in the utility section, that your platform is built on a 3-pillar system. So we already, I already thought like, oh, that sounds interesting. But yeah, it includes the burn, the stake, and the trade. And it is all these different pillars are designed to provide their investors a user-friendly experience. And as you guys say, experience that will enable them, the investors, to achieve their financial goals. That sounds very interesting. It is, I mean, very much to it, exposure to XRP, different revenue streams, but I don't want to get into that too much because I want to let the guys talk about it. But also want to mention we have a $100 giveaway, which has been given to us for you guys, investors, by Kevin. So thank you very much for that. It's going to be announced at some point by Matt Hatter. And the only thing you have to do is, of course, join their Discord and leave them a nice message. Maybe have a look around, ask some questions. But yeah, that's enough from me. Thank you, guys, and I hope you enjoy.
Thank you very much, David. Kevin, good to have you in.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Mad Hatter. This has been a long time coming. So
yeah, it's going to be an interesting conversation.
It absolutely is. Let's get into it, brother.
How are you doing today? I know you guys had some fun things going on. You kind of stealth launched a new token that you have. How did that go? How are you feeling about it all? How's today been for you?
It's been pretty good. I didn't really get a whole lot of sleep last night because, well, we launched PXA and that was done on purpose because PXA isn't really a token that needed much marketing, and proof of that is the fact that it went up, like over 7,000%, and it's not even 24 hours old yet. So,
right.
And a lot of people like it. And for context, for those listening, PXA stands for Prosperous XRP Arbitrage. It is an arbitrage token, and all that means is that basically you continuously trade it. You don't hold it like you would a deflationary asset. Like our main token, PTC, is a deflationary asset, that you long-term hold and stake and all that. That's fine. Arbitrage tokens are meant to be traded so that you can constantly increase your whatever you're trading for. In this case, it is paired with BEP20 XRP, so you're trading it to increase your holdings of XRP or BEP20 XRP. So,
which of course, a lot of people are going to know from the SEC, and we'll get into that, the SEC court case and the obvious good news that came out very recently with that. Before we get to that, though, as you know, because you've heard a ton of our Q&As, I like to start with a bit of your background and perhaps before even crypto, just, how your journey has got you to this stage right now. So where you started, where the interest in this space really developed, and what then drove you to developing your own project.
So, I mean, I'll be honest, I've been in crypto for a number of years, even before, 2018, 2019. DeFi, I got in late 2019, and, I met up with a bunch of guys, from WarFi and all that in another project ecosystem, the Nemesis ecosystem originally. That was one of the first projects I invested in, and the first project I actually took a massive loss in. Helena was terrible. From there, I bounced around Node and, rebasing projects, and they were all terrible, as they always are. And we did try to help out one project called Allura, which anyone who was around for Allura, you'll remember me and my business partner Raj. We took a long, hard attempt to save that project, and unfortunately, the owner Hero decided that he just didn't want to continue it anymore and shut it down. So sad. It actually had a lot of potential, but Allura Marketplace, rest in peace. And shortly thereafter, that's when I really got involved as a partner to WarFi and Up Finance, and eventually me and Raj, it originally was going to be called LTT Finance, but we rebranded, and I'll get into that in a second, to Warhaven, which is the other project I'm a co-founder of.
Right. Yeah, we've spoken to Raj. We had a great conversation with him.
Yep, and I really, he runs it, and I run PTC, just so that there's no conflict of interest. We keep things separate, especially because, and I've made this quite transparent and clear to everybody in PTC, we will be investing our treasury into Warhaven and WarFi, and that's further reason why I can't really run two projects like that, because it would be a massive conflict of interest to do so.
Right.
So. Yeah, I do want to address the thing, because I know there's a couple people in chat who want it brought up, and it's going to get brought up now. And that is the PGV drama. So at the beginning of the year, actually in November, I originally invested in PGV along with so many others, and it was a massive Ponzi scheme, obviously. Mr. Manny Delgado is a scamming piece of shit. I hope he goes to jail someday, but apparently he's on the run because the media went to his house or something.
Right.
So yeah, when PGV collapsed, I made a group called Prosperity Truth Coalition. It was just a group at the time that was well before the token and the actual project came in, to try to hold Manny accountable with others, and things continued that way for a little while, and then around March, April, I had a conversation with Manny, and he offered me my refund, and I took that because I was on the verge of bankruptcy, and I was in a very bad headspace, and I took it. And in hindsight, that was not the decision that should have been taken, and a lot of people were mad at me because of that, and rightfully so. And there was also the thing that I did delete a chat that had evidence against Manny, and that was also a mistake of mine. People like to say I got paid off to do that. That is not the case. But that is what happened, and I'm not going to excuse my actions there. I made mistakes. I own those mistakes, and everybody in PTC from the old days does know that, and they know who I am. And I've made a lot of attempts to show that, like, I'm not an asshole or a scammer. I doxed myself. The treasury wallet is doxed. My personal wallet is doxed. We run things very, very transparently. All the transactions for the treasury get posted for community auditing, on and on and on, right? We built the proof of holding staking system, right? Your tokens don't leave your wallet. I want people to have the ability to sell if they so choose. You know what I mean? Everything has been done so that people feel comfortable and safe in the project. That was by design.
I think so. There's a lot of respect that should be given for owning something like that and addressing it. And I'm sure there are people that have a ton of questions. Taking a refund, it's a bit of a tough one, right? It's a tough one to fully apologize for because your circumstances dictated that you needed to. I suppose deleting the information perhaps was misadvised. What's one of the key things before we move forward? I'm curious, what's one of the key learning points that you took from that you're obviously going to take towards what you're creating now so that you can start to rebuild the trust in those people that you feel that you might have lost some in?
I think the biggest takeaway is rash decisions. Back then I was very prone to making rash decisions, and I've learned that is not the best way. Responding emotionally is not is not the correct answer. And like I don't know. I don't think There's really any other way to say it, you know. I have to own up to my actions on that. It was a failing of integrity on my part, and I said that in the original AMA that I had back then, that like I fully owned up to it. It was a failing of integrity. There is no if and or buts. There's no excuses. It was wrong, you know. So
I think a lot of people will appreciate that wording. I wonder, have you set up something now within the team that you currently work and within the community, perhaps people that you can lean on, trust, speak to, that you can go to now to avoid those emotional decisions moving forward?
Absolutely. My CMO Pad, Lagara, who I believe is listening here. Yep, he is. He's been instrumental. I honestly couldn't have run the project without them. Shout out to the developers, Strix, that I hired out of my own pocket. Which, by the way, I also want to say this, right? A lot of people don't believe this. We have the transaction receipts. I have the pictures to prove everything. Half of my original refund from PGV went into creating PTC. I paid $1,600 to Strix to hire him originally for the original contract on Fiverr was for him to build the DApp and, you know, the 3-pillar system and all that. And after that, you know, he stayed on a smaller salary. Same thing with Pad. You know, Pad didn't have to stick around. I paid him I believe $100 to make the Discord and to set up some bots for it, right? He didn't have to stick around. He decided to, and we worked out a plan for a small salary. Lagara is not even on a salary, and like he's been one of the most helpful. I mean, he set up a booster out of his own pocket because he believed in the project so much. Like, I honestly would give you a hug, man.
Well, that's good, and it's good that you're able to surround yourself by people that are going to support. Look, I appreciate the transparency on that. I think it's refreshing. I think it's honest. I'll be honest, in terms of our research and our looking around, there wasn't an awful lot, if any, negativity coming from that particular project towards yours. So you can rest assured it isn't something that is massively pressing. Again, you identify there are people that are going to have questions, and rightly so, but those questions aren't filling the space non-stop. And I believe in this space that, you know, redemption for anybody that has just done something misguided, their intent was not to hurt anybody. They just did something that you know, they wish they hadn't, they wish they could take back. And then moving forward, if you're conducting yourself in the right way, it might take some time with some, but eventually you'll get to a place where everybody is going to be satisfied that right now, you know, you're not in that space, and things like that are a thing of the past.
Right.
Let's talk about PTC. I found it really interesting looking through your white paper, going through the Discord. As you know, we kind of spread ourselves out at the pillars, and the three of us go and do different things in terms of research. It's an interesting looking concept. It's an interesting looking project. What you guys are trying to implement in the roadmap that you have in front of you is also very interesting to look at. But I did find it somewhat not confusing, but lacking in information, perhaps. Like I wanted something a bit more juicy from your white paper, and I wanted something a bit more juicy from the DApp. And I'm really interested to have this conversation because I'm hoping you're going to give me that juicy information and we can have a bit of a back and forth on it all. So why don't you give us a bit of an overview on what PTC is, what it is that you guys have as a vision, and what it is that you're currently trying to do.
Okay. I mean, I can start from there. So PTC, the token itself, right? I mean, it's a reflection token on a basic level, but I mean, if we're going to talk about this in terms of vision, it is and always will be a community works token designed to help people that have been rugged, right? And it's in the name. Prosperity Truth Coalition was literally taken in spite of Prosperity Gem Ventures. That is where the name came from, right?
Right.
We basically took the name back because fuck you, Manny. You know, and each word is the antithesis of that project's name, you know. So and you know, how we do that, how we help people who've been rugged is through risk-free airdrops, and we've done hundreds of them, and I've done the vast majority from my personal wallet because we wanted to keep the treasury healthy. And And honestly, it doesn't really matter because I'm not allowed to sell tokens anyways. It was a promise I made from day one, and I have kept that promise. And I don't see a reason to sell not until the project is a success. I've told people I don't get paid until you make money, a lot of money. And I stand by that. So, me having tokens doesn't really help me if I can't use them. So, that's why I decided to just give them out. And I've been giving them out so much that actually my team has been generous enough to top up my wallet because they're like, Kevin, you're going to drain your wallet. I'm like, I don't care. We're going to help everybody. Damn it. We leave nobody behind. So
give me some examples of some of the people before we kind of get into how people can make money with you, what it is that they can do with the token, where they can get it, etc. Give me an example of some of the projects that you've kind of swooped in and helped.
We helped One Token. They were one of our first big partners early on. I believe you've had AMAs with Oliver and Lucky, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, One Token. Yeah. He's in the crowd listening.
Yeah, and honestly, the marketing they gave us and vice versa was invaluable early on because there was a time where it was almost stagnant. When I made PTC, there was a couple hundred PGV investors who were willing to give me a chance. They were by no means happy with me, but they were like, all right, Kevin, you're promising that you're going to support this token. You're putting your money where your mouth is. I'll give it a shot, right? And obviously, they had nothing to lose because I was airdropping them tokens for free and telling them not to buy it. So, for them, it was a win-win no matter what. They could sell it right there and make a couple bucks, and if it goes higher, they would make more. So, And so for a while, it was very hard to obviously get partners. It was very hard to network because I was basically starting from nothing, rebuilding from ashes. And there were a couple projects. One Token, Zoin, Andrew, he took over that project. He was a PGV investor and a good friend of mine. He partnered with them. More recently, we partnered with Rev Token, Legendary Club, who Yamap runs. That's just a couple off the top of my head. I've been in talks with other projects. Lazarus Pit. I can't go into detail just because I'm not gonna say what me and them talked about in conference. But I had a meeting with them today. We're planning a collaboration in the future, so there's that. Okay.
So, how do people earn with you guys? What do they earn? Where do they go to earn? If somebody wants to jump into PTC and hasn't had an airdrop, where's the first step?
So, if they haven't had an airdrop, and they're just buying it. The first thing is obviously the reflections, which I'm going to break that down right now. The tax is 1%. The tax is 1%. It has been for months. Before that, when the token launched, it was 15% on both ends, and that was only to protect the liquidity pool. And the moment the staking utility came out, it was dropped to 1%, and that is where it will stay forever. And half of that 1% goes to reflections, the other half goes to a dev fee, and that's pretty much it. And I'll get more into that in a second as it relates back to other stuff. The other thing is our staking system, which I know you have a great many questions. So where would you like to start on staking?
Well, how about you talk me through it first, and I'll throw the questions in as you're talking.
All right. So proof of holding consensus was created and born of my hatred for lock staking models. And I've made that no secret in my community. I've made that no secret in other AMAs that I've done. I really despise proof of stake. Why? Because I believe it is antithetical to DeFi. DeFi is all about you're always in control of your assets, not your keys, not your crypto, that whole thing, right? So if that's the case, why then are we locking up our crypto for months at a time without any way to take it out? Or if there is, it's a huge ass fee, upwards of 50%, and just garbage, right? That doesn't really speak to me like it's DeFi. That speaks to me like it's a bank. And I thought the whole point was to get away from the banks. So I set my developer on a task. I mean, I developed the mechanics for it and the math with my friend Raj Masters. Especially he is responsible for the reward system that POH governs. The actual POH system I more or less created. But anyways, when you stake, a snapshot is generated from your staking transaction. That snapshot gets stored in a database. And then there's an API which controls a custom wallet watch function. And I will use the most elementary example that I always use. Let's say you have 105 million PTC and you stake 100 million of it. So now you have a snapshot of 100 million, and the wallet watch function with the API is going to watch your wallet. Let's say you decide, you know what, I want to sell 4 million PTC for some coffee money. You do that. Because your holdings are at or above the snapshot of 100 million, 101 million is more than 100 million, you're fine. Your staking validity remains true. But let's say in another reality, you decided, you're like, oh, shoot, it's moonshotting. You decide to sell 50% of your holdings, right? Well, now you've dipped below the snapshot, and now your staking validity is false. And the only consequence of that is that your rewards for the month are forfeited. And what that means is that the rewards stay in the contract, the rewards pool, and they get rolled over into the next cycle, which is more than fair. And that,
right.
you know.
And what are the cycles that they operate in?
The cycles are once a month, although currently we're in cycle 3, and we had to make it an extended cycle of 60 days because our two revenue streams that we were relying on, Wolf Capital, which no surprise they paused, that was fine. But the one that hit us really badly was actually the iBots collapse. That really set us back, and you know, having I believe $1,400 turn into a couple hundred was not good, and we really had to take a look at the books, and we realized that there was no conceivable way we would be able to hit the target for a reward pool, especially as the staking pool, the amount of PTC that was staked, had reached a record. You know, we went from 24 billion in cycle 1 to, I believe it was like 48 billion in cycle 2, and cycle 3 is 60 billion, a little over actually. So, and obviously the system that we use for rewards, proof of holding, pool contribution percentage, it's great in the way that it's more fair because the more you hold, the greater your rewards are. It's bad in the sense that obviously the bigger the pool size gets, the more diluted each individual share becomes. And that's not a problem so long as you have revenue streams that can, top up the contract, to mitigate that. And we could have done that had our revenue streams not both tanked, but they did. And so now we are going to be switching over to Warfi and Warhaven with some other, minor investments. But yeah, that's where we're at. And that's why it had to be a 60-day extended cycle. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to keep to our no-loss philosophy, which is that everybody who stakes should absolutely make more money than they put in. You know what I mean? You should always make more, especially when you account for fees, which there are fees, and we'll get into that.
Right. And what are you attributing the influx of stake tokens that are coming in? Is it the airdrops? Is it people buying in? I mean, is it a byproduct of helping protocols? And do you perhaps have to go back to the drawing board and rethink how many you might help within a certain period of time so that you don't have that massive jump? Or is that not really something that bothers you because it's just pool reflected anyway?
I don't see it as a problem, to be honest. We have long since talked, like me and the team, we talked about this a couple days ago, and so long as the revenue streams get up and running this month, and we top them up obviously with more deposits, we'll be able to not only facilitate the rewards pool for staking, but we'll be able to do buybacks on PTC, and then we can use those to do more marketing, more airdrops for other affected projects. Like most recently, we helped out over 100 people from the Seifu community. I can see a couple people in the chat who we helped out, right? And you know, I do want to make this clear because I think people get the wrong impression that when we do airdrops, we tell them to buy and we don't. And anyone on the team and anyone who received airdrops can attest to this. I actually go out of my way to tell them you don't have to buy. I don't want you to buy. That's not the point of the airdrop. The airdrop is to get you into the ecosystem free and risk-free. If you decide to buy, that is your decision. But you could just as easily take your 5 million PTC or whatever it is, sit there, collect reflections, and then as the price of the token goes up from other people buying, you could sell and make some money. That is a valid strategy, and I know a couple people that did that, and great for them. You know,
of course, and strategies are always something that should crop up, and people should be asking you what the best strategy is. And there's nothing wrong with saying, well, we're not telling you should or need to buy, but some people have done this and it's worked out for them. They've managed to boost their rewards by X amount. That's an avenue that you can take, or you can simply take the tokens we've given you, stake them, and move on from there. I don't think you should be apologetic about putting that into a strategy, provided, and as somebody's already mentioned, they certainly didn't feel coerced to buy. You know, provided you're not saying, well, this is what you must do. So for anybody that might be confused, what is it that your rewards pay in? How are they paid? Is it weekly, monthly, daily? What is it paid in while they're staking these tokens?
So we operate on a monthly, or right now cycle 3 will be on a bi-monthly, but we do plan to go back to monthly after this one. So yeah, it's monthly, and the reward is in BEP20 XRP. That was an executive decision by me early on, just because I had a feeling that the SEC lawsuit would result in a win for Ripple. I was right. I feel very vindicated on that because I took a very big risk in choosing XRP, and you know, I very well could have faced issues because I am based in the US, but I didn't, and we're good now. So
yeah, I think it was a very well calculated decision. Of course, it could have gone wrong, but I think the writing was on the wall for the Ripple versus the SEC case, and obviously what has transpired over the last week and a bit is great news. It might not have pumped XRP to the price that people thought, but what is it up now since
75 cents, I believe. Yeah, 75 cents.
So it's had a very decent jump, and anybody that's been given rewards in XRP to date is probably laughing to themselves at the moment, right?
So yeah, so you earn BEP20 XRP, and I want to go over how pool contribution percentage works a little bit, because I mean, I only scratched the surface on it. So the idea is that, like, if you have let's say 10% of the pool, that percentage is the percentage that you will get of the rewards pool, right? And so the system isn't static in that everybody uses one wallet, and there is a very good reason for that. There are a couple whales in PTC who bought very early on. I'm talking, they bought when it was like 15 cents gets you 3 billion, right? And for context, PTC has a max fixed supply of 120 billion. Obviously, like 16 billion has been burned by now, but I'm just giving you context on like scale of like how many tokens were accrued by certain people. So to mitigate whale staking on one wallet and hoarding rewards, and obviously it becoming a massive L for lower end stakers, we created min and max stakes. And right now those numbers are 60 billion to stake minimum and 260 billion max ceiling per wallet. Now, multi-walleting is allowed, and we factored that into the system. So, you know, a whale can still theoretically go, you know, stake 260 million across 10 wallets, right? That's fine. It's better than them staking all 20 billion of their tokens on one wallet, which is not good. You know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
And the tokenomics are interesting in that respect, in that you're very conscious that you don't want, and I'm guessing that's a throwback to your experiences in other projects. And, you know, a lot of the people that you've referenced also come from a particular project that's going through turmoil now. We won't mention it, but we obviously know that whales were significant issues with that particular protocol. So I'm guessing this is a rub off from that, knowing that you don't want.
It is because in that other project, you'll recall the big problem was that whales caused the little guys, the minnows, to take egregious amounts of losses, and there was no system in place to stop it. And that is precisely why we have the min and max stake system. And, you know, I've been very conscious, me and the team go over the numbers every month. You know, there is a certain amount of XRP that has to go in the pool to make sure that a single wallet staker doing 60 million only makes more money than they put in, because there are fees. They're relatively low, but there are fees. There's the gas fee. And then there's a 25-cent BNB staking fee, which goes to the contract and the treasury can take out. And then there's a 40,000 PTC burn fee to help the token achieve deflationary month to month to help with scarcity and price, right? So when we factor these fees in, we have to factor in that they have to make more XRP than they lose on fees, and on top of that, for it to just be worth their time. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to make a lot. Like, we tend to believe that the $3 to $5 range is acceptable if you're only going to do a min stake. I believe that that's more than fair, because that still results in positive, right? And the idea here is I don't want people to think of this as, oh, the whales make a killing. Even the whales only make like $120 a month. And like our partner, One Token, right? They bought $1,800 in a treasury to treasury OTC sale from us early on, and they took 2.5 billion that they bought and they staked it across 12 wallets. And I believe they only make like a little over 100. Which is fine. That helps their protocol. But the idea here is not to, advertise, oh, you can make a killing with this. No, the idea is that it's a safe, sustainable model where you can earn from real yields. That's always been the case.
Now, let me dial into that a little bit, because tokenomics aside, your rewards are based on external revenue streams. So while it's as safe as those external revenue streams.
Yes.
And as we know, one of them paused, the other one, collapsed effectively. Right. First question, nothing in your white paper mentions external revenue streams. Why is that?
That is an oversight, actually. And that will be corrected, to be honest with you. I actually noticed that about 2 days ago. And that is a section that needs to get added. There is a typo that you pointed out that I need to go in and fix as well. But yeah, honestly, I'm actually glad in hindsight that it isn't in there, because I don't foresee us staying with Wolf Capital. And this is nothing against Trav or the team. I do think that they're doing the right thing for the community, and I believe Wolf Capital probably more likely than not will stick around for a while. They seem committed to their variable yield rate and stuff, so that is very hopeful. But sure. I really, me and the team are really committed to just going through Warfi and Warhaven at this point. They've been doing green for over 20 months, so I don't foresee them going anywhere.
They have, and they've been doing very well. One of the things, obviously, that I know is that your appetite now for going into more degen plays has significantly diminished, and I think that's, again, admirable. Is it something that you put forward to the community? Do they understand your position in terms of what you're doing in order to make a decision as to whether you go into a project, how you go into that project, and what kind of decisions are you guys making in the background that determines this is what we like and this is what we don't?
Oh yeah. Like, I made it no secret, and early on when we made the investment into Wolf Capital, I told everybody that, like, this is not gonna last. This is purely because I've done the math and I realized they're going to last about 2 months, and they did for us. And it was more of a marketing thing, and I said that to people too. Like, the weekly top up system was not going to last forever. We can't do that mathematically. Sustainably, we could not ever hope to do that permanently. It was always going to have to be a monthly top-up system with maybe the occasional weekly top-up from, minor revenue streams here and there, but, like, it was always going to have to go to a monthly system where the revenue stream pays out monthly. And that's why our staking window and our claim window is in the middle of the month. I had designed it with that in regard in advance, right? And people will remember the first staking and claim for cycle 1 was the middle of the month. Second month, same thing. Third month, will be the same thing.
Right. And in terms of shifting towards the Warfi, the Warhaven model, how will that affect, if at all, the payouts? And how do you communicate to your community that it is going to be affected in this way? Perhaps they're going to drop a bit because, while safe and consistent, and I say safe in inverted commas because they have obviously, for anybody that doesn't know, 19 months worth of green trading to date. And I mean, that is huge. Anything can happen, of course, in this space, but 19 months very much shows you that they're good at what they do, they're consistent at what they do, and it would, give people a lot of confidence that moving forward they're going to continue to be able to be consistent. But of course, with that consistency come lower returns. So what does that mean for your current investors, for anybody that's getting these snapshots, and how do you communicate that to them?
So, like I said, we made it very public to people that the transition to Warfi and Warhaven meant that the cycle that we're now on for POH staking was going to have to be an extended cycle. It was just going to have to be, especially because I know you're familiar with how Warfi and Warhaven works, right? When you put the money in, it doesn't start trading until the next month, and you don't see a payout until the month thereafter. Right. So for us, we have to put the money in this month and then, wait and then get paid out the following month. And that's why POH staking for cycle 3 has to be a 2-month window, because otherwise it would just be the 400 XRP that's left in the contract right now, which at that point would result in the whales making a decent chunk of change splitting amongst each other, and then everybody at the bottom would take L's, and that's unacceptable. The no loss philosophy has to be followed very strictly.
Okay.
So
now, you're going to get questions of people that are going to say, well, we want the rewards to be a bit higher. We understand that you're taking the safe route. We understand that this is a slow process. It's not something that's going to get you rich quick, and rightly so. What do you have in your back pocket that's going to encourage those that want to see things happen a bit quicker, that you're working towards getting more money in, which in turn can then generate you more rewards for the investor?
Well, so obviously we launched PXA, which was Prosperous XRP Arbitrage, which is the arbitrage token I talked about at the top of the show. That launched specifically because if you're going to have a 2-month staking window, what do you expect your stakers to do for 2 months? Sit there and twiddle their thumbs? So right. That's really where that came from, and it's been largely successful. Like I said, very, very big drum up on the LP in the chart. And people can do that. Now, I'm not going to say that's risk free. That's absolutely not risk free. People, and most people understand that arbitraging on a token like that, there is risk that you can incur a loss. Now, obviously, you could just hold instead of selling, and then eventually, as an arbitrage, more people do arbitrage buys, you can then sell and all that fun stuff, right? But that was put in just so people can, do their day trade type style stuff and make their own money.
One of the okay, a reasonable pushback when you use vernacular like risk-free is going to be what security measures are in place. So what security measures are in place at the moment that really protect the investors that are coming into the PTC token?
So risk-free, when I say that, I mean that they don't have to invest. But if we're going to talk about risk, right, I would point to the fact that POH staking doesn't lock up their tokens. I would point to the fact that they can sell their tokens at any time if they so choose. The tax is low at 1%, 0.5%, which goes back to them in reflections, which, I wanted to bring this up.
Please do.
The reason the reflections are integral to the system is because it essentially refunds your staking fees. You know, that 40,000 burn fee and that 25 cents of BNB and even the gas fee, if you really want to go that far. The reflections are designed so that over the course of the month, obviously depending on how much PTC you're holding, because it's, reflections in descending order. The more you have, the more you make, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. But you'll be able to essentially get back all of your fees in reflections in the token. And so that, refunded essentially through that mechanic.
Right.
So that's a method of making it risk-free. Everything that we designed very much so to mitigate risk as much as possible. Now, obviously, I know, you want to say, is it 100% risk-free? No, of course there's risk. There's always risk in any project. There's risk in Warfi, right? There could be a catastrophic failure on Shiny Jackal side. Obviously that hasn't happened, but sure, the risk is there. It's very low. And for us, yeah, there are things that could go wrong, right? But we've taken a lot of steps to really reduce risk and make it as pro-investor as possible.
Right. In terms of pro-investor and driving volume and getting people in, what are you planning in the future now, perhaps, that is going to really increase some of that volume that people want to see with your token?
So we have a couple things. The OG NFTs are coming. That'd be one. Those are free, by the way, minus a small burn fee in PTC. Other than that, they will be free. Well, gas fees too, but that should be obvious. And those are going to act kind of as a DAO mechanic because I want PTC to transition towards a DAO system. I don't want to be the executive decision maker because that's also an antithesis to DeFi. It is. Mm-hmm. And, for now, yeah, the team has been making decisions and people are happy with that. That's cool. But as we get the NFTs out, we want the community to more be the ones to decide on things. Maybe the community decides, Kevin, the XRP's been awesome, but we want to get rewarded through BTCB for the staking, and we'll implement that. The contract can change the reward token,
Yeah. One of the things, I'm getting a question here. What is PXA? And, when you say arbitrage, not everybody in this space is necessarily going to know how to do that. And me personally, I'm one of the high things I have on my priority list for any protocol is education. I think visual education as well as verbal and written are important as one another for people that learn in different ways. Do you have any plans to bring some visual YouTube videos out, perhaps some recorded audio that explains to people step by step how they can take advantage of the things that you're implementing? Because it's one thing that certainly I couldn't find much on YouTube, and your DApp doesn't have that at the moment. And I think it's a key component that you could really heavily utilize to have people more tuned into what it is that you're doing right now, what it is that you plan to do in the future, and really get them in the most simple way, understanding what it is that they can do to make a little bit of money here and there.
Yeah. There will be a. Honestly, I plan to make a light paper for PXA, to be honest, and have some written and visual aids so people can understand how to do the token. I've said all day since the token launched last night, or late, that it's not a deflationary token. Please don't treat it the same way you treat it as PTC. It's meant to be continuously traded. That's the whole point.
Right.
But But obviously there is that barrier where people don't really understand how arbitraging work. And for people who don't, in the most basic, simplest sense, the way it works here is rather than basing your trades off of price, you base it off of the exchange rate. So, like, let's say 1 PXA equals 0.1 XRP, right? And that's your cost basis that you entered at. So you would want then to make double what you went in with. You would want it to equal 1 PXA equals 0.2 XRP, right? That way you double your money, right? That's more or less arbitraging here. There is the more literal definition where you're taking advantage of a price discrepancy on exchanges, yes. But what I'm saying also does fall under that category. It's just basically you go off of the exchange rate of the liquidity pair rather than price. You would also use price, but it's about the exchange rate.
Sure. And I do think some kind of educational tool would benefit you guys greatly. I think it really gives people something to sit behind, and it allows you to push them in that direction for information before they start asking questions. And it can really alleviate some of the pressure of some of those questions that might trickle in. In terms of education, one of the things that you guys do, it's on the front of the page of your DApp when you go into it, and it's these audited discussions that you guys have. It's an audit interview. And I wanted to touch on that because I think it's an interesting approach. It's very, it's exactly what we're doing here in terms of an AMA, a Q&A. You pride yourself on asking the tough questions. So before I start asking you some tough questions on that particular aspect of what you do, what was the inspiration behind wanting to do that particular aspect of PTC?
I think it was to try to help the community cut through the FUD and the uncertainty of projects. Now that program, I definitely think it can work. Obviously, after a certain project rugged, which will not be named, I paused because I realized that people are dishonest, and no amount of tough questions and research is necessarily good enough when you're dealing with that. And so, I paused it for now just because I wanted to have candid conversations with my team, people like you, which we did talk in DMs about that, and just trying to get feedback on how to better approach doing interview style AMAs, because like one thing I think a valid criticism was the scoring, and the certificate. I definitely like the certificates, and the community like the certificates. I think there's definitely a better way to go about it, though. So that'd probably be one area to work on.
It's interesting that you mentioned the certificates, and you're very cleverly taking some of my ammunition away from me by owning it before I can bring it up, which I appreciate. The wording on it, however, when you're talking about wanting to be safe, and when you're talking about wanting to ensure that investors are completely educated and they can trust that what you're doing is aiming to keep them safe. One sentence that stands out for me is, "We do hereby deem this project safe to invest in." And I just think that is a slippery slope of effectively saying to people, if you guys go ahead and invest in this, and of course, as we saw, and we won't name them, one of them rugged, and actually quite the opposite proved to be true.
Yes.
Now, retrospective action is great. You might remove the video, you might remove the audio, you might remove the certificate. But are you now thinking of, you've already alluded to it, but what angles are you now thinking of to mitigate against that? Is it the wording that you might take out, a different approach perhaps?
Yeah, I think the wording and the score would probably be removed. I think the certificate itself can remain, but a scoring and a phrase like that definitely, I don't think it is in line. You know what I mean? I think a certificate just with the plain stuff would be sufficient. And it's not even just to protect us. It's also just because, you're absolutely right. How can you possibly know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are safe to invest on? How can you make that guarantee? And you can't. And that is something to definitely work on and improve upon for that model. And that is why it was paused. Is, you know, I recognize the criticisms that you and a few others had given me, and, you know, I thank you. Honestly, you pointed out a very reasonable, very valid flaw in what I had assumed originally was sound logic, but I now understand was nothing more than, I guess, optimistic wishful thinking, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And actually us pointing it out and me coming to you and saying, hey, do you think this wording is perhaps the best way forward? It wasn't to criticize, actually. It was more to protect not just the investors, but you guys as well. Because, you know, the very heart of what you're wanting to do is help people, help investors who have otherwise been let down by other projects. And I think what you guys can best do is then place yourself in a position where at no point will you let anybody down. And that might mean that you know, might skip a conversation here or there, or not necessarily put your name quite so vehemently to a project, because it then avoids that backlash on you. And ultimately, backlash on you is simply going to kind of put hurdles in your way of success, right? In the long run.
Right, absolutely. And oh yeah, I forgot to say this earlier. The other NFT we have coming out is the Phoenix NFT, and that's going to be paid. And this leads into the tough part of running a project like this. And I spoke to you a little bit about this a while back. Because of the way PTC ran, there was no pre-sale, obviously. And, you know, for various circumstances like I went into, and just also because of the reason the token was created, you couldn't sell a token to a bunch of people that were rugged, right? Let alone with the circumstances surrounding when I made it with what happened in PGV. That was just never going to be the case, right? And so even months removed from that, you know, old drama, the fact remains it's very hard to come up with ways to generate revenue for this project, because I'm very sensitive to the fact that 99.99% of our holders are people that have been rugged in at least one project, if not multiple. And I don't really like the idea of charging ass loads of money to people that have lost money in other projects and have come here on the promise that they can just slowly make back their losses. You know, it puts a sour taste in my mouth, and if it puts one in my mouth, I can only imagine how that would, you know, put a sour taste in, you know, an investor who is coming to us to make back losses, right? So it's very hard to do a paid model, and, you know, that's why price has to be correct. You have to do the utilities. Like, I don't know the best way right now. Me and the team are still talking about that. There's a lot of things. The NFT contracts are almost done, obviously, but there is a lot of discussion that has to be had around, you know, what is a fair, reasonable, and low price that, you know, people aren't going to feel like they're getting, you know, basically screwed here. You know, like, hey man, I came here to make some money. I don't want to like be shelling out the XXXX, you know. So
right. Would you think that maybe part of all of these thoughts that are running through your head, and part of the fact that you're kind of juggling all of these ways that you want to approach the community, or not for that matter, is it maybe that you guys are still trying to find your feet in how you want to market yourself? And how open are you to your investors bringing you suggestions in terms of where you can really dial into marketing? Because, you know, they always say, you know, don't try and do too many things well. Do one thing extremely well. Do one or two things to the best of your abilities. Are you guys slowly trying to dial into where you want to market and then really go full steam ahead on those one or 2 points? Because to my mind, when you reach that point, if you find those few stepping stones that you want to start using, I think your vision becomes clear, the vision for your investors becomes clear, and then you can really start pushing full steam ahead.
I think the vision is pretty clear, you know, like it's kind of like a dual vision at this point. And I've said this in announcements as recently as this month. PTC will always be a token first and primarily to help people that have been rugged, right? That is in essence its basal use case, right? The vision and what we're working towards and continuously is attaching it to XRP, demonstrating such a strong and close relationship that it can't be argued otherwise. We do that through the staking, we do that through the marketing with the PXA now, right? All of this, to really push home that PTC equals XRP, right? And in that, we've attached what otherwise would have been a dime a dozen reflection token with a big supply to one of the largest and most popular utility coins in the world.
Right.
So
understood. An observation. You almost sound apologetic for things at times, and I don't think you need to be. I think, to me, it comes across, certainly speaking to you now and having this conversation, you're obviously very open. You've owned your faults. I don't think you need to continue to own them. You can let them go at this point. I think your proof of work is going to be able to speak way louder than any more apologies that you can give anybody. And if you guys are here to help people who have been rugged, at this point, just start screaming it as loudly as you can and own that. And then when you start to own it, I think really that confidence starts to surround you. And provided you've got all of your ducks in a row and everything is succinct, and you're making sure that people can look into everything that you're doing with, the treasury buys, they've got the transaction hashes that they can take a look at. Someone said, you'll go down to $1 in terms of showing what it is that you buy, for example, where it goes. I think just standing behind that moving forward and no longer apologizing for what's happened is going to really put you guys in a strong position. Here's a question. So somebody's asked, how does the proof of holding consensus algorithm allow for more flexibility and utility compared to a traditional proof of stake system?
Because of the fact that you can sell your tokens at any time, for one, and also because of the fact that it's flexible, right? You can sell some of your tokens and still have your validity in staking be true. You can sell all of them if you so choose and forfeit your rewards for the month. Maybe the token went up in price and you want to take profits. There is no claim fee, right? A lot of lock staking models have claim fees. We don't. If it says you're going to get 10 XRP for the month, that's how much is going to go to your wallet when you click the claim button on the dApp. The only two fees we have are on the front end when you do your staking transaction, and they are very low. They're, to my knowledge, the lowest fees of any staking model on a existing project right now, And that's because I don't, I don't really care to do high fees. The fees should reflect the success of the project, right? And I don't think the project is at a point yet where we could justify raising the fees. Certainly not the BNB staking fee. I think 25 cents is more than fair, when you factor in the lowest man on the totem pole and the highest. Once we get to a point where the lowest man on the totem pole can make $10 or more, then maybe we can have that discussion about bumping it up to 50 cents or something, but not until, you know what I mean? It has to be proportional and it has to be fair.
And bearing in mind you want to push it towards a DAO system, are those the kind of questions that you're going to be posing to community members that are in your space, whether they're holders or not?
Absolutely.
Great. I think utilizing people's minds in the space is also another thing that is something that people appreciate, right? Investors appreciate. And again, it shows a real strength. So someone's also asking, can you provide more information on the Binance pegged XRP tokens and how they are related to the staking rewards in the PTC ecosystem?
Yeah, so Binance pegged XRP is a token created by Binance, the exchange, kind of like BTCB is. All of the Binance pegged assets, in addition to their liquidity provided by TVL, are backed by Binance themselves. I believe the backing is 500 million for per asset, but don't quote me on that. They have some type of fund to back each asset to make sure that it will always have liquidity. So, assuming no black swan event on Binance, all of the Binance pegged assets are pretty much guaranteed to run forever. Mm-hmm. And if Binance goes down, we have much bigger problems for the smart chain than
yeah.
So,
I mean, if Binance goes down, I think the entire space is going to be exiting stage left, right?
Yeah. So
I think everyone will be leaving. During this process, what has been the biggest learning curve for you? What's been the one thing that you've really dialed into and said, actually, that's my main learning point. I appreciate learning that, and I'm definitely utilizing that moving forward. I know we kind of touched on it at the beginning, but I'm kind of looking for something more specific, perhaps, even if it is technical, whatever it might be.
Let me think. I think the main thing that I've learned probably is trusting the team that I have, more with handling things, because for a long time I've just been running things, basically wearing all the hats. You know what I mean? Even when like Pat is making a banner, I'm like over here trying to make a banner myself and throw it on Twitter and blast the marketing and I think trusting the team that we have that's helping run this project just as much as me. I think that's been a definite learning curve for me. Putting trust in them. Because, like, for example, this is something I actually wanted to announce on the stream. Right now, and for the duration that the project has been alive, the Treasury has been under my jurisdiction. Me personally. Now, that has been fine up to now because the project was for, up until very recently, really only a couple hundred people, right? And the vast majority of them were for PGV and a couple other projects from partners, right? So they all knew me, more or less, right? Mm-hmm. So the inevitable question of what's stopping you from rugging never came up because everyone knew me. That is no longer the case. We have people coming in from Seifu. We have people coming in from other projects. And so as the project gets bigger, right, it is no longer really ethically acceptable or permissible for me to just have the Treasury, and not just because of like, oh, what if Kevin runs, right? What if I drop dead tomorrow from a heart attack? What does Pad and Lagar do to get the funds out of the Treasury wallet? Well, they'd have to contact my family, go through all this process, right? So that's, what I mean? And that's why we are going to be switching over to a multi-sig with the team on it. And, that doesn't mean that the community auditing of Treasury transactions stop. That will continue. As always, all Treasury transactions will be logged and posted for community auditing.
And when's that going to happen? When will that be implemented?
The Treasury, the multi-sig, I am actually going to be creating as soon as I get off of this this AMA. I already have the wallets from both Pad and Lagara. I have my wallet that's going to be on it, and that's we have one other person who's going to be on it, and that's going to be how we're going to do it. And then the funds from the current Treasury wallet I have will all be transferred into that. And that's how it's going to go from now on.
Great. I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm sure people will be excited to hear that. One of the pieces of feedback that I got from Viral Voodoo of the Pillars was that he was under the assumption that you were indeed doing everything. And at some point, if you don't recognize that fast enough, it can start to go south as pressure starts to mount. But it sounds to me like you're level-headed enough to realize I can't do everything. I shouldn't be doing everything. And in actual fact, enlisting some help, putting in a multi-sig is the best way forward.
Oh yeah, and it's going to have to happen anyways. I mean, like, I'm starting a new job IRL next week, so like I'm going to be doing overnights and that's going to eat up my time. So there will be times where I will be physically unable to do things like the staking window, right? Which is why like the staking contract is going to have to get transferred, ownership wise from the current treasury wallet to the multi-sig, which will be the new treasury. That way, if I'm like busy working, like a 14-hour shift or whatever, right? Ligara and Pad can be like, all right, don't worry, we'll get with Strix and we'll initiate the claim window so everyone can claim their staking rewards. And, it will work much better that way because I just don't think, like I said, it's possible to continue with me on having access to the treasury only anyways, and nobody really would want that. I think everybody listening would agree, whether you like me or not, that the treasury being a multi-sig from this point on is the best way forward for the project.
Yeah, I agree, and again, I think it is a very mature decision to take. A interesting observation was just made, and they're saying they're only half kidding, but actually, I think there's some real meat in that, and would also set you guys apart. Bearing in mind that you are selling yourselves as a rug pull survivor, and you guys are there to help people who have been victims of rug pulls, we know that there are some spaces that people can go to, and some are going to be healthy for them and some are not, depending on what it is that they like to engage with, depending on the kind of conversations they like to have. Would you, or are you considering a space within your Discord by which someone can speak to maybe a person one-on-one in a private channel, or or enlist the services of a psychologist to just talk people through what the next processes are if they're struggling with having lost that money, maybe still see validity within the space, want to continue but don't know where to turn to? Is that an extra layer of help that you guys would consider or are considering implementing?
We definitely consider it. I mean, it hasn't been brought up by the team. Obviously Ligara is not up here, but I'm sure he would definitely be open to it. I'm sure Pad would, as would Strix and the other team. And I want to be very clear, for the past 2 months especially, I've and this is where I say the learning process, I've been really trying to push letting team democracy on decisions happen, because I don't want to be the benevolent dictator that of Satoshi Nakamoto. That's not cool, and I believe the team makes a far better we make better progress when we make a decision together, and that has proven to be the case, especially the last 2 months for the project. Growth has continued to escalate, and so yeah. Right. We would definitely consider having somebody. I mean, I can say personally, I've had those conversations with people, in DMs, in tickets. I'm not gonna betray confidence, but yeah, I've had those very personable conversations with people that have been suffering mentally because of financial loss, and there are people that have told me that they're done with DeFi 100%. The only reason that they're still in DeFi as far as PTC is because they got an airdrop, and that was enough for them to say I'm just gonna stay here and do staking because you're cool, Kevin, but I'm pretty much done. I've lost so much money, and I told them that's fine. This project will be here indefinitely. You can continue to make rewards here. We're not promising Lambo. We're not promising that you'll get rich and millionaire, but we do promise that we'll be here and you'll be able to make some money back little by little, slowly over time.
Well, I just, by virtue of the fact that you will consider it, I certainly think that person will take a bit of strength from that, and maybe that's something we can implement here, because I think it's a very useful thing to have, as Alpha Crews are saying. I also see Kenneth is very cleverly and wisely prompting to dig into certain aspects of the protocol, the project, and it is a question that was on my list as we're winding down. I want you to kind of give me the things that you're excited about, and one of those things I'm sure you're excited about is the trading portal for PTC and how that's going to differ from other trading platforms. Do you want to talk us through that a tiny bit?
Yes, the trading portal. So That is technically live right now, and it is provided by the RBX team. Just letting everyone know that. But we actually have been working with them behind the scenes because obviously in our goal to push a connection between PTC and XRP, there was obviously the need to give people an easy way to bridge their BEP20 XRP tokens to real XRP on the ledger. And, the RBX team is still working on that network bridge so that they can add it to their systems. And once that is implemented, it will be announced. I believe they're in the final stages right now. It's just, I'm sure you know, Mad Hatter, network bridges are one of the most prone to, hacks and stuff. So a lot of the time, from my understanding, the conversations I had with them goes towards testnet testing. They have to test the ever-living crap out of it.
Right.
So
yes, they do. Yeah, it is. And certainly you guys are having to be very heavily security conscious. So, testing, retesting, and testing again is going to be way more important than rolling something out perhaps too early and people getting stung. I'm going to ask you to recap in a second, and I'm going to ask you to tell me what you're most excited about. Before I do, I'm just going to let everybody know that we are going to be starting the giveaway, which is going to be 2 times $25, and then it's going to be, is it 50 million PTC tokens, I think you said?
Yeah, 50 million.
The right figure? Yes. 50 million PTC tokens, so that will get somebody straight in on what you guys are doing. The rules are...
I want to correct myself. It will be 60 million PTC tokens, not 50, because I want to make sure that it matches the min to stake requirement. So it will be 60 million for the PTC prize. Yes.
Okay. All right. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Everyone knows the rules. They've got to be in your Discord to be eligible. And I don't know why I've just linked our Discord. Let me just delete that. And I will link your Discord instead. Jump in, please, have a look around, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask. They're there to answer anything that you guys want to know. I'm sure you'll be able to read it in there anyway, but if you can't, just go ahead and ask. Right, in terms of being excited about things, what are you most excited about moving forward? Is there anything on the horizon that you're looking towards and thinking, once we get to that point, I'm going to be able to sit down, pat myself on the back a tiny bit and say, you know what, this is the bit that I really wanted to get to? And more importantly, why should anybody involved with PTC be as excited as you?
So the thing I'm most excited about is the thing that's going to take the longest amount of time to build, and that is Prosperity Bitcoin. And I can't go into too much detail just because it's never been done before, and I don't want people copying the concept. But to give you a very brief gist, imagine a simulated proof of work layer 2 on a proof of authority chain like Binance Smart Chain, and there is no hardware governing the hash rate. The simulated hash rate, if you will, is governed by assets.
Mm-hmm.
And
explain that to people in layman's terms.
Basically, you can use PTC token, one token, NFTs, and those assets would get a equivalent hash rate to their value, right? There's a lot of other complexities to it, but that's the most layman term I can do it. And then you would be competing with others to mine Prosperity Bitcoin, essentially.
Okay. Interesting.
And that is going to be the final deployment of the ecosystem. That's probably not going to happen till next year, I'll be honest, but that's been a dream of mine for a number of years to build, is that obviously, we have to do the NFTs first, get the DAO set up. We have one or two other things after that, right, that we have to do. And I won't lie, PBDC, because it's a layer 2 solution, that's going to require at least about 6 months of development and testing to realistically make.
Okay. So you've got some work cut out, but something that you have been thinking about for some time, which means you're going to be passionate about it. And I think that's something that anybody listening should also take on board, that if you're passionate about something, you're going to put your all into it. And, only good things come really from people that put their passion into things. Kevin, I've appreciated the conversation. There's a ton of other questions that I might not have got to that are sitting in the stage questions if you want to hang around afterwards. I like your candor. I appreciate your honesty. You've owned a ton of things that, A, you didn't need to own, in my opinion, but, B, just by virtue of the fact that you did, there's a lot of strength for, as our discussion has progressed, there are certain things, tweaks to the white paper, to the DApp itself, the wording, the certificates that we've discussed that I think, if you make those minor improvements, you guys are going to look really strong. And I'm excited to see how you guys can develop. And if you can really start to live up to the expectation that you're going to start to begin to set for yourselves, which is to help people that are victims of rug pulls. It's a shame that you even need to exist in this space. And hopefully there's a day where you don't need to and you have to dramatically pivot because there are only good players. But until, as we've seen most recently, somebody rug. So until that happens, which isn't going to be for a while, I think projects like yourselves that are willing to put their heads above the parapet and do something about it and really kind of help those that are victims, I think is great. And provided you guys are doing things as you should, people should rally around you and support you.
I appreciate that, man. And I will say in closing, before we get to the giveaway, to something you said earlier, the reason my candor often comes off as apologetic is because, I'll be honest with you, my mindset is that I still have to atone for my sins, and PTC is my way of doing that. I don't believe, maybe the vast majority of people have forgiven me. I know there are some that won't and probably never will. For me, I have a lot of atoning to do, and I don't even mean that just in a religious sense. I am a religious man, but I just mean in a more moral sense and, human sense, And the only way I can do that is through my actions in continuing to run the project with the team and just, doing right by the people that we bring in and help. That's how I do my atonement.
Right. Well, I can tell you now, there's 160 people and has been for the most part of this Q&A sitting, listening to you, and I haven't seen a single negative comment. So certainly in the eyes of those that are listening, you're already on the right track. And anybody else that wants to say something negative, unless they're prepared to have a one-on-one conversation with you, it's all just noise, right? You leave it behind you and you just work towards what you're working towards, and you'll get there eventually.
Appreciate that.
I appreciate you, Kevin. The giveaway's running. Hopefully people are jumping into your Discord as we speak. And
let me scroll down. I'm in 100 servers, so I'm sure you are. I hit the server cap a while ago. Yep. There have been some people that have said some things. So how are we going to be selecting winners?
It's already running. So the giveaway bot's already doing its thing. Winners will be announced, and then we'll get in touch with you. And we'll take it from there. But thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. And my hope is that you and I have another sit down at some point and can discuss the progress and where you guys are. And hopefully you'll be telling me how much further along you are and how much stronger the project is.
I'm sure it will. We just build very slowly and steadily. Up we go.
Slow and steady wins the race. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Appreciate it.